Say hello to your friends. Say hi, YouTube. Bye, YouTube. Welcome back, esteemed endurance nerds. We're back for the 6th and final workout of Zwift Academy Road, so I can show you my ridiculous t-shirt that I wore. Grimace. A little pissed off because I brought Grimace back before his birthday, before the milkshake, before he was cool. He was a work joke, and now all of a sudden he's all the rage. Now it makes me less angry because I can buy ridiculous t-shirts like this and Crocs like these. But anyway, let's talk about the workout. So we're here today talking about All Out Burn, the 6th and final workout in the series, and regardless of whether you're doing this first, last, or somewhere in between, there is no signs of letting their foot off the gas in terms of this workout pressure that you're going to face here. It's kind of a blending of a few of the different workouts if you look at the overall structure. You got a little bit of workout number 2, a little bit of workout number 3, a little bit of Monica in my life, and a little bit of workout number 5 in this one. And it's going to present quite a bit of a challenge. Now I'm going to do a debrief video going over the Academy in a more holistic version, give my review, my overall thoughts and opinions, and maybe some suggestions. But I've seen a couple criticisms in videos from this year's Academy critiquing the workouts here, and probably through the lens of Academies past, that some of these workouts look a little bit kitchen sinky, right? There's a bunch of different colors. It looks like something that their 5-year-old can draw. In this workout, absolutely, you can see you've got a little green, a little yellow, and a little bit of red. And you might be thinking to yourself, you know, this really doesn't seem like a well-structured workout. This is not a normal type of workout. And again, I have to go back to the premise here that none of these workouts, with the exception of workout number 4, are supposed to be traditional workouts. They are supposed to be assessments. So when they're throwing the kitchen sink at you, there's a specific reason for that. And we'll talk about the specificity to this workout here momentarily. But there's a reason why you're doing a little bit in your sweet spot, a little bit in your threshold, and a little bit in your more VO2 max zone. You're looking to fatigue those different systems. So it's not a shortfall in terms of the workout design. It's an understanding of the premise of the workout. This is not something that you repeat throughout the course of your plan. This is kind of a one and done that you might do periodically throughout the course of an annual training cycle, just to get an evaluation of where you are. In this workout in particular, you're looking to get a 5-minute power assessment. 5-minute power is a very common framework that people try to get an evaluation of, especially when you're looking at a race type of effort. 5 minutes is what you would kind of consider that breakaway effort, or getting to the top of a climb effort. So you're going to really go and dig deep, and you're going to try to create some separation between you and the rest of the bunch. In fact, you can kind of see at the end of this workout, we'll go through the structure in more detail, that towards the end, you have a bunch of VO2 max level efforts, and then you go into the 5-minute test. It's almost like I attacked. The attack didn't stick, and then finally, you put in one 5-minute dig, and you're trying to put some distance between you and the group. And the reason that 5 minutes is so important is it's usually a good amount of time that you're separating the wheat from the chaff. Many people can keep on a hard effort for a couple of minutes, right? They're there, they can keep on the wheel, and they know that somebody's going to let up on the effort eventually. But 5 minutes is enough for people to just kind of throw their hands up and say, screw it, I'm not doing this kind of work. Somebody else can close the gap. And it gives enough time to put some considerable space on the road between maybe you and a breakaway group and the people behind. You'll also see 5-minute type of power executed as you see at the end of pro races, where somebody's trying to TT towards the finish, right? They're getting to the bottom of a descent and they've got a little bit of a gap, and they're trying to protract that distance by putting in a full, almost time trial effort and break away from the entire bunch that's chasing them down. You'll likely start to see this a lot more in terms of Zwift racing as they've updated the pack dynamics to be a little bit more realistic and slowing down the speeds of the blob to be something more commensurate with real life, where those people who are time trial specialists or attackers can actually make a break and separate themselves if they're willing to kind of go into the hurt locker for that 5-minute period of time. So it's a very practical level of power. Even if you don't race, if you ever think of a short climb in your area and you want to get up over that climb, you want to beat that local segment, power output of 5 minutes, it's going to be something that you really want to work on in terms of being a well-rounded rider. Now, as I kind of mentioned in the last workout here for workout number 5, I actually would recommend that most people do the shorter variant of this workout. And I say that because I know what the kind of average intermediate level cyclist is working on, and you're going to run into the same issue in terms of a readiness to even complete the pre-fatiguing efforts before you get to the 5-minute open test set. A lot of folks may not be built up to that level yet. So you may want to start with the shorter workout and then work your way into the longer one later down the line, either before the Academy ends or even after the Academy ends, because these workouts will be in the folder in perpetuity. I wish again that they would have done the shorter variant at 60 minutes versus around 45, as the longer one is closer to 90 minutes. I think there's a bit of a missed opportunity here where they're trying to keep that short workout to something that people can jump on the bike, and you figure within an hour they can get dressed, get on the bike, get a workout done for 45 minutes, and then get off and get back to their lives. I think that that's a very appealing time interval for individuals to do a workout, but in terms of capturing that intermediate cyclist, somebody who's been doing training training for a little while, I think that you're missing the mark just a little bit. That 45 minutes might be a little bit shy, but that 90 minutes might be a little bit heavy. But at the end of the day, if you're looking to get a 5-minute evaluation, if you don't want to fail before you even get there, you might want to try to do the shorter variant here. So let's talk through the structure. The short and the long workout are very similar. I think there's a decent amount of parity there. It's not quite cut in half, so we'll talk about some of the differences here as we go through this longer workout. So you're going to start here with that traditional ascending warm-up that we see in the rest of the workouts here. And then you're going to follow that with a brief recovery. Your recoveries in this particular case are at 55% of your FTP. So it's right at the top of your zone 1 into your zone 2, right at that break point at 55%. Then you're going to get a very short priming effort here where you do a little bit at your sweet spot and then you do a very short interval at VO2 max. I'd like to see maybe a little bit more priming at VO2 max, especially for the longer workout if I were to construct this ideally, but that's okay. You are going to get plenty of warm up throughout the course of this workout, but sometimes it just helps to wake up the system, especially before you go into this first block here. And this first block is going to be the deal breaker for the vast majority of individuals, just like workout number 5. This is 20 minutes at 90% of your FTP. 20 minutes at 90% of FTP is really not going to be an achievable block of time for many people who haven't done that sweet spot work, just like workout number 5. You could potentially modify this block here if you're willing to do a little manual manipulation and still get the vast majority of the benefit and understanding here, or you may want to break this up into 2 10-minute chunks or roughly 10-minute chunks and then just put a 30-second quick recovery in between just to take the tension out of the legs and then reset your cadence and get back on top of it. I guess you could break it up into 3 different parts as well of roughly 6 minutes apiece with some maybe 30 seconds interspersed in there. You just need to be on top of the erg button, be able to toggle things on and off and make sure that you are in the right gear. But I wouldn't break it up into anything smaller than the 7 or so minute segments if you're breaking that up, because then you start to really lose the intended pre-fatiguing effort. But I think that slight modification for those people who can hold sweet spot for a reasonable amount of time but aren't quite up this 20 minutes, that might be a more viable alternative than the shorter workout if you're looking for more of a challenge or if you're more experienced of a rider. In the short workout, they reduced that time block down to about 4 minutes. I really would have liked to have seen that as a 10-minute block. I think most people, even if they're not practiced at sweet spot, could usually get through one 10-minute block and force their way through it, right? It might take a little extra concentration. They may have to get in and out of the saddle, but that's okay. You're working the fatigue into the system, and then they'll get that little bit of recovery before they move on to the next block. I think 4 minutes is a little bit short. I understand that they're trying to crunch things down into that 45-minute time slot, but that's where I thought that the 60-minute workout would have been a little bit more appropriate in this case. Then you're going to get a brief recovery of about 3 minutes. Now, 3 minutes for most people, if you're reasonably fit and you're reasonably experienced, should be more than enough time to recover your heart rate, recover your breathing, get back into a comfortable cadence and a rhythm, and then restart the next interval. It should be pretty close to full recovery. In fact, if you're a pretty fit individual, you should be able to drop your heart rate into your zone 2 within probably the first minute. If you still have not settled in your heart rate to zone 2 by the end of that 3 minutes, that's okay. It just means that you have a little bit more work to do from an endurance perspective. After that 3-minute recovery, 2 minutes for the short workout, you're going to go into another block here at your FTP. And that block is going to be of 10 minutes for the long workout. So on the heels of a 20-minute effort at 90% of your FTP, again, it may not be particularly achievable for a lot of individuals who just have not done this sustained level work. This will give you a good evaluation that you may not quite be there yet. This is another block that I wouldn't break up too much, but if you wanted to do one 30-second break in between, we're right at the 5-minute mark, do a 30-second rest real quick, and then do the other 4.5 minutes. It's not going to take away too much from the intended purpose of the workout, but I would not be breaking it up more than that because now you're just missing kind of the structure and the point of the fatigue efforts. For the short workout, the effort is only going to be 3 minutes. So again, not quite half. 3 minutes is still going to pinch because threshold by nature is uncomfortable. Even time trialists who are very good at executing this type of work, they're not going to tell you that threshold feels comfortable. They may grow to like it or enjoy it because it's a strength, but it's still going to be fatiguing whether you're doing 3 minutes or 10 minutes. Then here in the longer workout, you're going to get a longer recovery. So you're going to get 5 minutes. So that's pretty much full recovery after that effort. Whereas in the shorter workout, you're only going to get 2 minutes. So the shorter workout is actually trying to stack fatigue in a different way, using the compressed timeline, but also not giving you necessarily full recovery between all of those intervals. 2 minutes is probably close to full recovery to a lot of people, but many people feel like, 1 more minute and I would feel fully recovered. 2 minutes goes by pretty quickly and you're all of a sudden into another high intensity interval. So the short workout has redesigned those recoveries so that it might be a little bit harder to jump from interval to interval because you don't have as much recovery in between, and it's an offset for the fact that each of those intervals is shorter. So while it's not really equivalent from a load perspective, it is trying to build up the commensurate fatigue on a shorter or compressed timeline. So after that 5-minute recovery for the long workout or the 2-minute recovery for the short workout, you're going to go into 2-minute VO2 max intervals. So you'll have 2 minutes on at 115% of your FTP and 2 minutes off at 55% of your FTP. The longer workout will have 4 of those, and the shorter workout will have 2 of those. By the time you've baked in the fatigue from those first 2 blocks, especially in the long workout, these ones are going to pinch quite a bit. So you're still going to be working at your VO2 max, on the higher end of your VO2 max, but here you're probably going to be working above what you might find in the 5-minute interval. For some of you, it might be the same or even less, but I think for the vast majority of you, this is going to give you a feel for a little bit more than you're about to do in the 5-minute interval. So I said that we would talk about why you're seeing all of these different power systems being activated in the course of this particular workout. What's the point of that? And the point of that is actually to fatigue your anaerobic system, because when you get to the 5-minute test set, that work is to be done aerobically. Now that seems a little bit backwards, right? Because all of these intervals, whether you're talking about your sweet spot, your threshold, or your VO2 max, those are all aerobic work. Why are you telling me that I'm draining my anaerobic stores? And it speaks to something I've talked about in several of these workouts past, and that's due to the prevalence of individuals who have strong anaerobic systems, weak aerobic systems, or a little bit of both, being hyper reliant on those anaerobic stores. They might be relying on their fast twitch muscle fibers to get them through these protracted efforts of 20 minutes at sweet spot and 10 minutes at FTP. And especially when they start going into that VO2 max, where you're at 115% of your FTP, you're right on that threshold of anaerobic for most people's power zones. You're very likely using up those fast twitch muscle fibers, whether you like it or not, unless you're very, very well developed in terms of VO2 max and working aerobically. So by the time you get through all of these sets, there's a pretty good probability, especially in this longer workout, that your type 2 muscle fibers are going to be pretty fatigued, pretty trashed, to be honest. Some of you may only be able to reach for threshold. Some of you might not even be able to execute threshold after all those fatiguing efforts. But realistically, if you're well developed anaerobically and aerobically, your 5-minute effort should fall comfortably within your VO2 max zone, or at least those traditional VO2 max zones, somewhere between 105% and 120% of your FTP. It's going to hurt. Quite frankly, it's going to feel like hell. It's not going to be comfortable. It's not something that you're going to be able to hold all day. Much like those 2-minute efforts that you found in workouts number 1 and 3, you should really be reaching for every last pedal stroke. You can absolutely do this 5-minute power test fresh. You could do a couple of primers and do a 5-minute open critical power test and figure out how much power you can hold for 5 minutes. But there's 5-minute open power and then there's 5-minute practical power. There isn't much of a practical use case for individuals who are going to come in fresh and just do a 5-minute effort. I suppose for an early attack that could be beneficial, but in most cases, the real magic of a 5-minute effort is being able to implement it when you already have some fatigue in the system. So these tests, whether it's the short or long, are trying to simulate that in a way. Now, if you're an experienced athlete and you just want to get that open 5-minute test, how much can I execute early on in a race? I'm going to attack pretty much right off the gun. How much power can I expect to hold? Then maybe the short workout is the right one for you. You can use kind of that 4-minute effort at sweet spot, 3-minute effort at FTP, and a couple 2 minutes effort at VO2 max, and those will just be your warm-up, and then you go right into your 5 minutes. The achievability of the short workout is really going to be contingent on your experience, but I can see that being something more akin to an open test for those individuals who are intermediate to advanced. So I'm not necessarily trying to belabor this point too much. I just want folks to go into these particular workouts understanding, based on their experience and their abilities, which one of those workout lengths is going to suit their needs, suit their schedule, and what they can realistically expect to get out of those workouts by way of insights. After you finish the 5-minute open test, you're going to get a very brief descending cool down. I would recommend that most people maybe do a little bit of a protracted cool down, just spinning real easy for 5 minutes. It usually helps you to feel a little bit better, clear some of the metabolic byproduct out of the legs. If you have to jump off, there's no real detriment in doing that, but most people tend to feel a little bit better if they just spin freely until their legs feel a little bit less bloated with that lactate. From a fueling perspective, especially the longer workout, it's going to be important that you fuel. If you do come in fasted, like many of you do, first thing in the morning, you do your workout, make sure that you're topped up the night before with a good carbohydrate meal, and then probably start fueling right away. So this is about a 90-minute session here, and you're going to be very glycolytic. I would recommend even closer to 90 grams of carbs per hour, or at least 90 grams for the entirety of the workout. So if you can start maybe taking gels or sipping on an energy drink or taking some blocks, whatever your chosen fuel of choice, kind of right from minute 1, just so that you can stay out in front of some of the sugar burn that you're going to get pretty much right away at 90% of your FTP, you should be pretty good to go. If you can pre-fuel, whether you have lunch and then you're doing it a little bit later in the afternoon, or if you want to fuel in the morning, what have you, give yourself some time to digest, then you might be able to forestall taking on some of the sugars during the course of the workout, right? Maybe wait till 20 minutes in, then you start taking on your first gel. Your fueling strategy and timing is going to be up to you. Breaking out my broken record again, that if you're going to optimize your performance and you really want to hit that 5-minute power evaluation with your best capability in hand, you're going to want to make sure that you're properly fueled. To put a little bit more meat on the bone from what I talked about in the last video with respect to nutrition, one of the things that I kind of alluded to, but I didn't mention explicitly, and actually somebody said something in the comments, if you fuel either pre-workout, during the workout, or both, providing the muscles with the freely available sugars that they're going to need to execute at their best, what you're going to find, especially if you're trying to manage a calorie deficit, is that you're not going to come off the bike ready to eat the whole fridge. How many people have been on a workout, a very high intensity workout at that, and didn't bring any fuel on board either before or during, and then they get off the workout and they just want to eat everything in sight? And at that point, your brain is just telling you, feed me now. You're not necessarily going to bring your rational brain online and say, no, 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 don't eat the entire box of cookies, put together a sensible meal. But instead, you're just looking to recuperate those sugars that you've lost because the brain's telling you that it needs it. If you haven't completely depleted your system in a workout, your brain's not going to be starving for the sugars itself. You may still be hungry. You may still want the calories and the satiety because you need to fuel yourselves in a general sense, but you're not necessarily going to have these cravings overwhelming your better sense of judgment. And when you take in those kind of simple sugars, those not so healthy sports nutrition items that you're going to on the bike, it's not like they're super packed with calories. They're very carbohydrate rich, so you're going to get about 4 calories per gram. So if you're taking on, let's say, 90 grams of carbs during the course of a workout for, let's say, 60 to 90 minutes, well, that's only going to be about 360 calories, give or take maybe 10 to 20 calories, depending on the formulation that you use. I can say with confidence that the overwhelming majority of you doing a workout of 60 or 90 minutes is going to burn in excess of 370 calories during that period of time. That's if you've taken 90 grams during the course of the workout. So people worrying about the fact that they're going to overdo it on calories during the course of the session, that's really unfounded. There are very few people who are going to burn less than 360 calories per hour. Individuals with a kind of a lower output of power, whether it's because of size or just general ability, yes, they're going to burn fewer calories, but for the most part, at the very least, they're going to break even. If you're taking in the appropriate amount of carbs during the course of these workouts, it is highly unlikely that you are going to overrun the calories consumed over the expenditure during the course of the workout. So it's just another vote for proper fueling for those people who might be a little concerned about calorie balance, that they really are going to make out better in the long run if they're fueling the work that they're looking to do. I talked about the intention of these efforts being aerobic in nature, and I've talked several times during the course of this series about cadence and running too low of a cadence leading to anaerobic exhaustion. Just like workout number 5, the length of these intervals is going to be prohibitive to those people who might be trying to force a cadence that's higher than their natural set point, right? So if you're not used to running between 85 and 95 RPM, which is generally considered ideal when it comes to balancing out that kind of aerobic and anaerobic expenditure, don't think that in the course of this workout that you're all of a sudden going to be able to knock out 90 RPM like a metronome and then have that muscle sparing effect for the later intervals in this session. It's going to be what it is. It's going to be something that you can observe and you can manage during the course of the workout, and something that you can incorporate into your training. Throughout the course of these workouts, you've probably picked up some things and you've seen if your cadence really starts to bog down, especially for these sustained efforts that are going to be at or around your FTP. And if you're getting down into the 60 to 70 range, you're really going to suffer in terms of your anaerobic system. So you've probably gleaned that you're going to have to do a little bit more work to open up that range of your naturally selected cadence, right? It doesn't necessarily mean you can never ride at your 75 RPM again. There's a time and place for that, but you want to open up that range so that you're a lot more flexible. But that's really it for the Zwift Academy workouts. They certainly didn't go out with a whimper on this one. I think that you're going to find this one just as challenging as any of the other ones. You can let me know in the comments below, now that you're going to be finishing workout number 6, which one did you think is the hardest? Because I can guarantee you there's not a consensus. I'll probably put up a poll as we get towards the end of the Academy, and I'd really like to hear from you guys as you finish up the workouts and the races become available. What are your overall thoughts of the Academy, so I can incorporate some of those thoughts and questions that you may have in terms of my debrief, because I have some ideas for next year that they can enhance on this year's Academy. Spoiler alert, overall, I think they did a great job, but there's always opportunities to improve, and I'd love to hear from you guys what you think now that you've finished workout number 6, where you think the Academy should go, and what you've thought of this year's sessions. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, links to Grimace paraphernalia, let me know in the comments down below. Hit all the YouTube-y things, let the algorithm shine highly on me and my ridiculous antics here, and as always, I'll catch you guys in the next one. See ya.